Hey, welcome to Dream Aloud with Kendra. It's a podcast for Black women who want to live limitless lives. Be inspired by others who have dared to step outside of their comfort zone to live their hopes and dreams and passions. Now let's get started because life is way too short not to live the way that you want.
Hello, everyone. I am here with Dr. Christina Watlington. Of course, you guys know that I have braces, so I'm fixing that up. So I was trying to say her name, but I met this beautiful lady on the inside and the outside through one of my lifelong friends, Georgia. Hey, Georgia.
Hey, Georgia.
When did we meet? 9, 10 years ago?
Gosh.
It's probably like 9.
Must been we got a decade in this.
Yeah. And so it's so nice to meet people, especially with PhDs and professionals that actually are down to earth. I'm one of those people. I like down to earth people. I don't like pretenses or cliques. And I have never run into that with you.
I'm very down to earth.
Don't
get me cursing up in here.
Yourself. We don't want you cursing up in here.
Okay, I won't do that.
Because the kids might be watching.
Oh, okay.
But, you know what? But feel free. But like we there are no cliquish airs. We get together. Everybody has a good time. They don't ask what your title is. We don't ask, what do you do for a living? I like those kind of people. And you definitely are one of those kind of people. I don't want to know what your title is to treat you well. I want to treat everybody well. And I see you do that all the time as well, which is why we've been hanging out through Georgia and on things that they have together for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So you know that this is called our second act series. And Christina has an interesting story. I'll let her tell you the story, but tell us how you got from college to your private practice now. And all of the pivots that you've made in between.
Okay, if we're starting at college, I'm going to be giving you a couple of chapters here. So if we have time for some chapters, I'm going to throw down some chapters. So I went to Franklin Marshall College, and while I was there, I was really trying to figure out what is it that I want to do. And I was thinking about the social sciences, but I took this clinical psychology course or some sort of psychology course with a man named Dr. Michael Penn. What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, so I took a class with Dr. Michael Penn. He's a psychologist, a Black psychologist. And I was like, whatever he's taken, I want some of that because I loved his energy. I loved his flow. And I decided at that time that I wanted to become a clinical psychologist. He said, Christina, if you do clinical psychology, you could do just about anything, right? And I already knew it was in my spirit to talk to folks and have a conversation with people. And while I was in college, I met a man. We were studying a little too much and I got pregnant. That's the way I tell it. And had our beautiful daughter, in my junior year of college. So at that point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm this young woman. What am I going to do? I have a little family. I didn't expect to come out of undergrad with a husband and a child. Did that and decided to get more experience in clinical psychology. So I worked at the Center for the Treatment and Study of Anxiety at Hahnemann University, where I got some research exposure while I'm raising my daughter and while I'm a newly married woman. And decided that trauma was something that kind of spoke to my heart, because trauma, you can't just have a trauma-related diagnosis. Something in the environment has to have happened. There has to be an event that you experience and you have effects. Those are the 3 E's of trauma. So I decided this was a path I wanted to take. Went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Was conferred my doctorate in clinical psychology while my son was born. Something about school and making babies is my rhythm, right?
Studying babies.
Yeah, school and babies. Yeah, that's why no more school for me. And then I've been on the path of helping folks with trauma-related disorders. My first career was at the VA Maryland healthcare system. I got excellent training there, and was a coordinator for the Returning Veterans Outreach Education and Care Program. And decided to leave. And so my first pivot was leaving the VA. because people don't leave a government job, right? People don't tend to do that.
That
So
good job.
Yeah, it's a good job, benefits, but I mean, really good experience, right? You know,
Mhm.
so it was a hard transition, but I decided to do some work in Delaware with alternative schools. So I worked for a large human services company. And then from there, I transitioned and kind of was growing within the company. So I was the clinical director for an alternative school. Then I became the the director of continuing education. And then I became the national clinical director for the company. So I had this really big leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
But it was there, Kendra, that like I started to feel this discomfort because I didn't feel like I was truly standing in the truth of who I was as a
Mm-hmm.
Black woman. I experienced some stuff I didn't think I was going to experience. Well, I guess I knew I was, but there was a lot of microaggressions. Um, it was hard. I was dealing with a lot of work-related stress there. And something was like itching, right? Like something was telling me, girl, you got to do something else. You know, I was doing private practice part-time, and I kept thinking like I could do this full-time, but there was fear, and fear was blocking me. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to do it. But kept whispering to me. And finally, in 2017, I said, I'm going to run my own business full time. And I did. And I've been doing that since 2017.
And so you opened up your own practice.
I did. I had a solo practice, a part-time practice since 2011,
Mm-hmm.
but I decided to kind of spread my wings, right, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if I was going to fly or if I was going to fall, but I've been flying.
But you found out that your wings work.
My wings are out, you know. I'm doing some flying, soaring some days, you know. But it's but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love being my own boss. Yeah.
And that's what this show is about. Daring to pivot. I'm interviewing phenomenal women who dare to take control of their lives and make the changes necessary to live, work, and play their way. So, of course, that's why I had to have you on the show. And so let's talk about the stress at work that caused you to do that, because I'm sure you're not the only brown woman who's had that issue, myself included.
Yes. So, gosh, you know, it was a lot. It was being, you know, one thing that I can recall is that as a national clinical director, I was always kind of second guessed. Like, you know, there was a lot of self-doubt. Like, why is she in this role? You know, what's the reason she's in it? She doesn't deserve to be in it. Now, granted, I have my PhD, not like that makes me bleed any differently than anyone else, right? But a lot of experience under my belt, right? I think I'm pretty swift when it comes to certain things, but there was a lot of chit chatter, like, why am I in this role? And I got it from women too, right?
Yeah.
I had awkward, really uncomfortable conversations with people in leadership. I could recall one time I was taking a vacation or something, and someone in leadership contacted me because I had a website, because I had a part-time private practice at the time. I'd never kept that a secret. And made kind of this big deal about, you know, what is it I'm doing? Am I really serious about my role? And kind of constantly questioning me, right? And it was an interesting place to be because, as you know, I do something called Rise and Shine. And you came to my conference on the power of sisterhood. And what I talked about is as women, we're constantly second guessing ourselves. Am I smart enough? Am I talented enough? Am I capable enough? I feel guilty when I'm doing the right thing. So I don't even like to do the wrong thing because I always think I feel guilty doing the right thing, right? So, you know, kind of feeling like here I am in this position to raise the voice, to empower women to stand up, to have a voice, to speak, even if your voice is shaking. And here I am starting to feel small and second guess myself, you know, just feeling stressed, having a lot of stress related symptoms, not sleeping well, not wanting to show up to work, all of that stuff, right? Just
raise your hand if you've ever had that feeling. And it seems like that feeling starts showing up when your title gets bigger.
It can, perhaps it can, right? And I think it also shows up when we step into the truth of who we are, right? Because I think of this as a spiritual battle, right? And I love that you're talking about the title getting bigger, but whatever we do that aligns with the truth of who we are, I think there's going to be that chit chatter, right? And so some people call it spiritual warfare, right? Like the devil's trying to fake, you know, talk you out of some stuff, right? You know? So I think that that happens, and it's an opportunity, right? It's a challenge that becomes an opportunity to remind ourselves of what matters, right? Because our strength doesn't come from showing up when things are easy. It comes from showing up when things are tough. So some tough stuff was happening. I was like, I got to plant my feet in the truth of who I am. And it was hard. I was second guessing myself. I had all my psychological skills. I had all my coping skills, right? And I was feeling like, oh, all this self-doubt.
But you came equipped for the battle. I think it's the environment around you sometimes, because like you said, you came equipped.
Yes.
You know who you are.
Yes.
And it was okay when you were Christina in a different role. Yes. The minute you show up as yourself, your authentic self.
Yes.
With all of your tools.
Yes.
I think the chatter comes into other people, the observers.
Yes, I can receive
and
that.
Yes. They are wondering, who is this person? And instead of relishing in the fact that you are who you are and that you could teach them or help them to rise and shine, as your Facebook page says, some people become insecure. And then it's our job to protect ourselves, to make sure that we remember who we are. Yes. And I don't remember having that issue until I had a different title, or if I was rising and shining. Yes. And the people around me were not.
Yes. Isn't that something?
Especially when you're brown.
That's right.
And so I remember going to this conference and telling this lady my sob story, and not even thinking that most of us will go through this.
Yes.
And she stopped me mid-sentence and she said, "Move on. Your job is done there."
Yes.
And I was just like so afraid, like shaking.
Yes.
Like I had bills to pay. I had a kid in college. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so then that fear of stepping out happened for me. So so the reason that I have this show is also to let people know it's not just you.
Right.
If you have your ducks in a row and you know who you are and you're well equipped, it's not just you. And the question is it time to move on? You actually took the leap.
Oh, I did.
And started your own practice.
Yes.
I took the leap and went to another position where what I had to offer was appreciated.
Right.
But we have to stop shrinking.
Yes.
We have to stop playing small.
Yes.
And we need to encourage other people to look in the mirror. You know that you have the right skills.
That's right.
And so what is it that you need to do to be the person that you are, the authentic you? And then the last question that was asked at this conference that I went to was, are you rearranging the furniture on the Titanic?
Are you rearranging the furniture on the Titanic? Okay.
So are you just there rearranging the furniture?
Right, because it's still on sink.
Is it time to get on that lifeboat and save yourself?
Right, right.
And sometimes we stay a little too long.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it was affecting, you got stressed. It was affecting your health.
Yes. Yes.
Same thing with me. Is that a form of PTSD?
It can be. Definitely work-related stress can be a form of PTSD. So when we think of trauma, there are 3 E's, right? So you can't just say you've been traumatized, right? So there's the event. So maybe it's microaggressions at work or people chit-chattering, talking about you behind your back, right? That's an event, right? Then there's the experience of the event. You could feel scared, helpless, horrified, frozen, not know what to do. And then there are the effects. And those effects could be that you have trouble sleeping. You might be easily agitated. You might become that person looking for an opportunity to be offended, yes. Just looking to like tell someone off, right? It's hard to find joy, things that you once enjoyed doing. You find like, I just don't have like that pep in my step anymore. Intrusive thoughts, kind of always thinking about that thing over and over and over again. Trauma changes how you see yourself. It changes how you see others and how you see the world. So if there's a shift in your perspective, it could definitely be trauma. So that determines whether it's trauma, right? And so I definitely had those symptoms. Wasn't sleeping well, maybe paranoid. I always thought someone was trying to talk about me, maybe even if people weren't. Maybe I was looking for an opportunity to be offended, right? And it was interesting because it's this parallel process, right? Because I'm still doing the work of helping others. And as I'm doing that work, then I'm like, oh, some of this stuff is showing up for me as well, which can increase my compassion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you start having compassion for yourself, you're better able to give compassion to others. And so in a way, there's a gift in our pain if we can use it to our advantage, right? If we can
Mm-hmm.
use it to spread healing, love, support, to grow, to transform. Because there's not just post-traumatic stress, there's also post-traumatic growth. We can grow through the things we go through, right?
Yep.
And so the way I see it is that sometimes we have to, get a push because we ain't going to jump,
Yep.
I'm looking down, I'm scared as hell. But if I get a little push, then I might
Push.
spin my wings real quick,
Yep.
And so we can be grateful for those moments when we're really scared, because that's probably means that there's a shift that needs to take place, as you were saying for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That is awesome. So you get that little push. You
Mm-hmm.
may not have, you may have been too afraid, but it seems like whether you take the leap or you're pushed, once you get out there, you're like, what was I waiting for?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't understand it, but it seems that every time I need a push or a leap, there is a little fear. And you can remind yourself of the other times that you did things. Once you do it,
That's it.
you're good.
Right. Well, I think what you said, Kendra, is really important, right? Because often when we're in the moment, right, when we're dealing with those challenges, we kind of are telling ourselves we have all this unhelpful thinking, right? I can't do this. I'm such a failure. It's going to be a disaster. We start to catastrophize, right? All of these cognitive distortions show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we were to pause, we would realize, like, man, if I look at the trajectory of my life, I've gone through some stuff. Even the fact that I had my daughter when I was 20 years old
Mm-hmm.
and got married and still graduate from college and then went on to grad school. Like, that's some challenging
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
But it's
handled
not the
that.
end of the world.
It's not the end of
Exactly.
the world. It turns a beautiful thing. So I handle that. So sometimes we have to, be like, I ain't scared, right? For
Mm-hmm.
my son, we do a lot of trash talking. And whenever he was to take a test in school, I'm like, you ain't scared. Is that test scared of you? You scared that test, right? Just trash talking, just to kind of pump him up a bit, right? But that idea of punching fear in the face is very true, right? Because it could be
Mm-hmm.
so paralyzing.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for women, and especially for women of color, I think we often feel scared because we struggle with this thing: am I good enough? Am I worthy? Because of our oppression, gender oppression, race oppression, economic oppression. We have three stones on our back, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
because of that weighs us down. And so we feel really, really small. And society is constantly telling us what we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to kind of get those boulders off our back and say, I got this, because I stand on the shoulders of all the other women out there who've done these things, then we
Yes.
remember who we are. But it's not
Yep.
always easy to do that, you know? It's
Yep.
not always easy.
You can get inspiration by watching other people. You can also
Absolutely.
decide what you don't want to do by
Yes.
watching other people. I too
Yes.
was a young mom. I'm 18 years older than my son.
Yes.
So
That's right.
I took him to college before he went to kindergarten. But
Mm,
I think when you're back, when I felt like my back was against the wall and I needed to support him. So I needed to
yes.
support myself and him. So I
Right.
just went to school and I took him with me. And people were
Right.
like, you can't do that. Well, why can't I?
Right.
But I just felt like I was doing what needed to be done. In the
Right.
meantime, my mother passed away
Mm,
before I could graduate. And then I needed to
wow.
go to Illinois. I needed to go to Chicago, the Chicago land to finish my degree. And everybody's like, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to take him and
Right.
we're going to sleep in the car and eat hot dogs if we have to. But it's only eight
Mm,
months and we're going to figure this out.
right.
And it just seemed, things went well and not everything went well. There was the
Right.
fear, there was some discomfort, but
Mm,
I'm feeling like all of that, like you said, all of that was for a
yes.
reason because I was fearless then. Then the
Mm,
money, then I landed jobs, then the money came.
yes.
and then comfort sat in.
Right.
And I felt like I became displacing, you know, just going through the motions because I knew what it felt like to be uncomfortable. And now I was comfortable, but I knew there was so much more that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to people who need to get out of their comfort zone? Oh, because you used to take risk. You used to do these things, but now you're in a position where there's comfort, but you know there's so much more to do. There's so many more dreams that you need to fulfill.
Well, here's the thing. I guess the question becomes, are you really comfortable, right? I think that's one question. And kind of one theoretical perspective that I talk to my clients about, and I think about and I apply it to my own life is, you know, our life, when we live, our life is to be lived in harmony with our values, right? So whenever there's emotional duress, whenever there's this discomfort, it means that I value something, my value's here. So let's say my value is going to school to get my doctorate in clinical psychology, but I'm showing up here because I'm scared, like, oh, I can't do that. It's impossible. I have one kid, no, now I have two. It's impossible for me to do this. And so there's that gap, right? And that creates this cognitive dissonance, right? It creates this discomfort. And that's where I think a lot of the stress, the anxiety, the depression, and all the other things that cause discomfort really lives and breathes in that space, right? So when we're better aligned with our values, if I say my health is important, am I taking care of my mind, body, spirit? If I say relationships are important, am I showing up as a good friend to others, right? If I say finances are important, am I setting a budget monthly? And if we're not aligned with those values, that's where discomfort is. So if you always knew you had this gift to do other things, you were uncomfortable anyway because you weren't doing it. Because money is just temporary comfort, right? It's just temporary. We can pay our bills and it's important. It's important. But we're not defined by how much money we have in our bank account. We're defined by the values that we live and breathe, right? So that's the definition of us, you know. But in capitalism, I know we think we're, you know, money equals success and power and worth, right? But it really doesn't. You're gifted. God has gifted you to do this amazing work that you're doing, right? And so the extent to which we align ourselves with our God-given gifts determines the quality of life we live. And so I have to, but I say that stuff, right? I got to remind myself of that too, you know?
Everybody I have to remind myself. Help, and you have to remind yourself, or you'll get stuck in the place where, oh, I'm comfortable here.
Yeah. Or we tell ourselves we are, but we know we're not. And this is how we know, because we're thinking about something else all the time. We're not sleeping well. We're not taking care of ourselves. You know, we got headaches. We're going to the doctors more often. So there are signs, right? Our issues are totally in our tissues, right? So the body will keep score on the things we're not processing and dealing with. So, yeah. And so I'll tell them, it shows up. I'll say, you know, write down, you know, what are your values? What are the things that really, really matter to you? And just assess, how are you showing up? And it's not to say that we're going to show up perfectly, because I'm not. It's a journey, right? It's not a destination. But we still want to be accountable for showing up in service of our values, not what other people think we should be doing, but what we're gifted to do.
Yeah, we just talked about perfection paralysis in my first interview today. Oh, yes. Because people, you think you have to show up perfectly.
Yeah, I don't even know what perfect looks like.
I don't think we ever reach it, but you have to get started.
Yes.
You have to start where you are, and you'll get better as time goes. But if you wait for perfection, you'll never do it.
Right.
And you'll never be satisfied. You'll never be fulfilled. You'll never figure out what makes your heart sing. So that's my question to people about their authenticity. Who are you at your core? Which includes those core values, because you get those values from who you are, not who you're related to, not what you do, but your core values inside. What are they? Who are you at your core?
Yeah.
And then if you look to the left or the right, don't consult with anybody. Don't ask for permission. Do it.
Yes.
And find a way and find the strength to step over the fear. Like you said, if you have to do it shaking, with your voice shaking,
just do it.
Just do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I see Kiwanda is on. She has her hands raised.
Oh, hey, Kiwanda.
Kim Johnson says, yes, girl. And she said they were talking about growing pains. So I must have missed some of their comments earlier. I was like, oh yeah, those are growing pains. And growing pains are fine because you need to keep growing.
Oh yeah, right. Absolutely. We need to have, you know, anything worth anything is going to be uncomfortable. I often tell the story when I graduated from grad school, when I was conferred my doctorate, I decided for some crazy reason to run a half marathon. I don't know what I was thinking because I didn't understand why I had to run 13 point something miles and no one was chasing me, right? But I decided to do it because it was just like a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the first day of training, and there's no runner in Christina, right? Unless I'm running because I'm scared. And I remember the first day of training, we had to run 2 miles, and that nearly killed me. Like my body was doing everything to stop me from running those 2 miles. And I'm like, Lord, how am I going to run these 13.1 or 2 miles, right? But you work through the discomfort. You lean into the discomfort, and then you got it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go 4 miles and 6 miles until you eventually run a half marathon, right? So the thing that we often try to do is we try not to feel discomfort. And you probably have heard me say it in Rise and Shine, but we cannot heal the things we don't feel. I don't know if it's impossible, right? So the only way to heal and to get beyond something is we got to lean into it. We have to feel what's going on. We have to recognize the feelings. We have to allow them to be there, pleasant and unpleasant. We have to investigate what's going on, and we nurture ourselves, right? And then we move to the next step, and then the next, right? So that comes with being uncomfortable. But when it comes to mental health issues like depression and anxiety and trauma-related symptoms and eating disorders and substance use disorders, you do not recover from those things by avoiding the pain. You recover by leaning into the pain. And that's what life is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to lean into it because then we know we got this. We can
Mm-hmm.
handle it. Just like you said, there's other things in life we've handled. We can handle this too. But experiential avoidance, that attempt to not experience unpleasant feelings, that's what paralyzes us. And perfectionism, I would say, is probably its own form of experiential avoidance. We're trying to fake some stuff, right? Instead of just being vulnerable and saying, well, I was about to curse, but just being vulnerable and saying, I'm scared, right? I'm just scared right now. I'm nervous. I'm. So our feelings are meant to be felt. We're meant to act on life with committed action, doing courageous things. And we might fail, whatever failure means, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that Michael Jordan quote, like, and I'm going to totally mess it up, so I'm not even going to try to say it, but he says something about the fact that he failed so many times, but his failure catapulted him to his success. If you don't fail, how do you grow, right? Whatever failure is, however you operationally define that. So yeah, we got to have those growing pains, as Kwanda was saying. Yeah, we have to have those growing pains.
Yeah, and I don't know about everybody else, but failure usually shows you something else. You may have failed at what you set out to do, but it's a lesson somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yes.
Found, let's think about the vaccine that they have now. That vaccine, whatever they have now that's working, was a failure as a solution to something else. Right. So failing is not always a bad thing. It just means it doesn't work in this situation.
Yeah. It just means you have the right tools, the right resources, the know-how. You learn from it. Oh, I've learned from many failures in my life. I'm grateful for a lot of them, right? Because we are where we are today because of the things that were difficult for us to go through, because of mistakes we've made. So we want to have gratitude with that.
I was just going to say, and the things that we didn't plan to happen.
Yes.
So we planned for this, we planned for A, and B showed up, but in the long run, B was a good thing.
Yes, that's a really important one, because I think a lot of anxiety comes from these control tactics, right? Like I got to control everything and map out perfectly what my whole life is going to look like. But oh my gosh, my life took so many left turns and right turns and ups and downs and whatever, right? And it's those turns that are landing me where I am today. I couldn't control all that stuff. We certainly couldn't control the pandemic, right? Our response to it, we have some say in whether we wear masks or get the vaccine or whatever we choose to do, but we had no say in that. We had no
Right.
say in all the stuff in 2020.
Right.
The racism, you know, the injustice, like we can't control everything. We have a say in how we respond to it, but we can't control everything in our environment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're here for whatever it is, the pandemic, then we were supposed to be here. And then we are equipped.
Yes.
Therefore, we are equipped.
Yes, we are equipped.
And so we just need to figure out how we respond to it. And let's talk about response.
Yes.
Because we can't prepare for everything that comes.
Yes.
Can we be ready for certain things prior to them happening?
Like what? Give me an example.
I'm just asking. The pandemic, we didn't know the pandemic was coming. Well, the government should have known that the pandemic was coming, but we did not know that it was going to affect us the way that it did. And so what I saw was, I had internet, all of that stuff. So I was ready in that capacity.
Right.
But there was a lot of things that I was saying, well, one day I'm going to write a book and one day I'm going to do this. And so was I totally ready when the pandemic hit? No, but I already knew some of the things that I wanted to do before. And I was like, this is a perfect time. I don't have to commute. Right. I don't have to do these. I don't have to do that. I wanted to start walking. So I started walking. So I already had some of those things in mind.
Yes.
But I do feel like I could have been more prepared for opportunity when it showed up. Because for me, this has been an opportunity because we decided to shelter in place early.
Yes.
So
yes.
we weren't exposed to a lot of people, but you could go out anywhere and get the virus.
Oh yeah.
But while we're here and I'm still breathing, I decided there's some things that are on the table, some dreams that I had that I let fall by the wayside because I was commuting and I decided that I was going to do them. And there's just certain things, opportunities, and they're not always looked at as opportunities, but if you can get prepared prior to that, or the fact that we've been through a trauma before, so okay, this is happening, I'm feeling a certain way, so I'm already prepared to know what those feelings are, right, to understand that I'm having fear right now, but this usually means that there's better on the other side, or I'm feeling a certain way. And like you said, you were looking over your back and wondering if there was chit chatter, but now you know that you need to go inside first. Were they even talking about me? And does it even matter? What am I thinking? What's going on with me? Yeah. So I think if you're a little equipped with knowing yourself before things happen, the outcome can be better.
Right. So I think about that. That's a really good question, right? So I like the idea of know thyself. Again, I think that goes back to values. I think, where I challenge myself and others is we love to live in various time zones. It's either the past, we bemoan the past, right? Should have, would have, could have thinking, or we catapult ourselves into the future and we want to plan everything that's going to happen. We couldn't in 2019, we didn't know what 2020 was going to bring. We couldn't have mapped this thing out, right? But we want to try to do these things. That creates its own problem, though. Bemoaning the past is going to bring up some depression or something like that. Catapulting ourselves into the future, jumping into the future may breed some anxiety. And the only time we have is here and now. And I know they say the present is the gift, and that may seem corny, but it's true, right? So even if we're not prepared in whatever way we define it, because I think preparation, I don't know if we could prepare for, this thing, right? A pandemic. I think it's more about how do we sit still in the moment and experience it for what it is and trust our intuition as far as how we're going to get through it. So we call that wise mind, right? How do I think our greatest superpower as women is our intuition. And I know many women, we kind of thought something, we were itching, something was itching, something was telling us something was going wrong, and we didn't trust it. And then later on, we found out A, B, C, and D, right?
Yeah.
So our greatest superpower is our intuition. And one of my favorite quotes is, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. Quiet the mind and the soul will speak. And so I think what the gratitude I had, and I still have for the pandemic, and I have worries and concerns for all the bad things that happen, right? But if I were to invite gratitude into this space, I love the opportunity to slow things down. Oh, I remember talking to the kids one time at the table with Malik saying, we are going to, let's not sleep on this. This opportunity to be still, to be with family, to be with loved ones, to have gratitude for our health, if we are able to survive this thing, just all those things in the here and now matter. So the slowness and the stillness, I'm really, really grateful for. We needed that, right? I think we really need that. And the environment's thriving too because of this, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that we tend to be human doers. I know I'm very good at that, which means I got to plan. I got to know what's going to happen next, but we are human beings. We are not human doers. And the problem is kind of always needing to know what's next.
Yeah. So someone says, oh no, I use time zones. You're just talking about being in the time zone. They're like, oh no, I use time zones. But I think just what you said, just being equipped with that.
Yeah.
And assessing what's going on, and then get quiet and figure out, what does this mean for me?
And for the person who said, oh no, time zones, right? Everything in moderation. So, I jump into, I had to plan to make sure I was going to remember to be on here at noon today, right? I had to be in that future oriented time zone. It's all things in moderation. We do need to plan for some things, right?
Yeah.
We do think about the past. We could remember loved ones, right? So it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just inviting more space for us to be here now. That wise mind approach. So if you're doing some time zone stuff, just do it in moderation, to whoever said that.
And then the other thing is, like you said, you still have to plan for the future.
Oh, yeah.
But if the plan goes awry, it's not the end of the world.
Flex. Yeah. Maybe that wasn't, our time for it. Maybe it wasn't the right plan. Listen, sometimes I think I have a good plan and it's not for me. It could be for somebody else. I could be planning someone else's dream, but shoot, that's not my dream, right? So it's okay. We're still learning something in the process, right?
My motto is fail fast.
There you go.
And if you need to make the change, you make a change.
There you go.
And you move on.
Amen.
Are there any questions? We had a few people on, but I guess they've already said, yes, girl. You see a lot of that.
Okay.
You've given me your quote. You want to give it again?
Yeah, so it was, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. I do not know who is the author of that quote, so I would claim it for myself, but that wouldn't be the truth. Someone else said that. And it speaks to me, it resonates with me because that's my challenge, right? It's my challenge. My brain likes to go like 150 miles per hour. It just does. It just won't shut the hell up sometimes, right? And so I want to practice compassion for that, and then bring myself back to the here and now and bring myself back, right? So I think it's just giving ourselves the grace and compassion to know that now is the only time we have, and we want to practice some compassion for ourselves, like we're good enough right now. Because I often think some of this planning has to do with, oh my gosh, I'll only be better if. I'll be better if I get that job and make a certain amount of money, or if I lose this amount of weight, or if I buy this car or get that house or travel to some fancy place, right? Those things don't make us better. We are good right now. We're good right now. We can have enhancements and do A, B, C, and D, but are we good enough right now? And I think we all struggle with that. I don't know any woman or man who doesn't struggle with that, right? Our sense of self-worth. So I think being present with ourselves now and having gratitude and giving ourselves compassion and grace is probably the greatest gift we can give ourselves. And it's a work in progress. I'm working on it. Some days I'm good. Some days, I need a little extra time and some prayer with it.
Yeah. So just saying that, I think I have a new quote to add. I love quotes. I love quotes and questions that make you reflect. So the quote that I like, that I'm going to write down, that you just gave me is I'm good right now.
All right. Well, yeah, put Christina next to that one.
That's right. Of course. I try
But
to give
actually, no, claim
everybody
it,
credit.
claim it for yourself. Claim it for
I
yourself.
try to give everybody credit. I love quotes.
Yes.
I love quotes. And before we end, because we're at 12:41, well, I have a couple things because I know that you have a website, and
Yes.
you also have a newsletter,
Yes.
and you're going to start doing a podcast, or did I just make you do that?
Yeah, no, you encouraged me, so thanks, sis, for that.
Okay.
So my son was telling me it would be a good idea to do it. So I'm flirting with the idea, and
Okay.
you know I will lean on you for your expertise. So
Absolutely.
I'm flirting with the idea. My website, I don't know, how do we put it in there? Do we just put it in the chat? Can I put that in afterwards? But it's just drwatlington.com. So it's drwatlington.com, but I'll put
drwatlington.com, and we can put it in the
I'll put it in the
later.
chat. Yeah. So that's my website. I do have a private practice with a group of women. 5 Black women are working alongside me in my practice. Yeah, we're taking on new clients. We are helping people with stress and anxiety and worry and relationship issues and trauma, the whole gamut. So that's the work we're doing. I do have a newsletter that, thank you for reminding me, because I haven't been consistent with that newsletter. So I'm gonna be putting something out. It's called Mindful Moments, right? The idea of being in the here and now. So that's the newsletter. That's you can subscribe to that on my website. And that's it. And I have the group Rise and Shine to empower women.
Rise and Shine.
Yes.
I love Rise and Shine. I'm a member of that Facebook group.
Yes.
And you just post inspiration all day.
Yes.
All night, whenever you want to. And the group of ladies that are in that group are phenomenal as well.
Amazing group of women. Amazing, including yourself. Yes.
Well, thank you. But there are so many ladies that I've just met online.
Yeah.
And haven't met them face to face. And I feel like I know them because of Rise and Shine. And then some of the seminars that you put on.
Yes.
I've gone to Delaware to fellowship. So I've met some of those ladies in person. And the atmosphere is the same as you. So you want to be sure that whoever is leading, whatever they're doing, that you take part in is the same. And the atmosphere was, 1, non-cliquish. 2, people who were there not only for themselves, but to be a shoulder for the sister to the left and to the right of them.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the things that you're doing.
Thank you.
I will be looking forward to the things that are coming out soon.
Yes.
So that's drwatlington.com is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter, the Rise and Shine Facebook group. Do they have to be invited?
They can ask to join, and I just let them in. Yeah.
So they can ask to join.
Yes.
Because some things are like really private and some aren't. And I wasn't sure because I was invited. So I just wanted to make sure of that. But if you're looking just for inspiration, that's what you give there, just inspiration.
Thank you.
Nothing less, just inspiration. I really love it. And my last question to you is, because we didn't get here by ourselves.
Yes.
None of us have. On whose shoulders do you stand?
Oh my gosh, I stand on the shoulders of my mother and my grandmother, and all the great revolutionary women out there who fought for us to have the voice to be able to stand where we are today, and not just in the United States, but those globally who fought against oppression. I understand that, education is a tool, a very important weapon for the oppressed. And so I value my education, and I've learned that from many revolutionary women out there who have fought for that. Yeah, I mean, I believe in pouring libations and recognizing our ancestors, and I could go on and on with all of the ancestors. So there's some quote that like what is it? I'm like the daughter of my aunt. Oh, I'm gonna mess that one up, Kendra. So I'm gonna put that in the chat later. But there's some quote about how we arrive where we are because of our ancestors. So I couldn't
Sounds
say
like
it's
Ubuntu. The
yes,
word Ubuntu
Ubuntu.
for
Yeah.
I
And
am
I am
because
because
you
we,
are.
yes, I am because we are, right? And so that idea that, you know, I'm part of a collective, like I'm not this
Yes.
individual, that I'm not
Yes.
just here because of something magnificent about me, but because of my community. So I do not downplay the importance of the community. And it's because of that, that idea of giving back is so incredibly important to me, right? To have that value, to be a collectivist and to understand that we're here to give back and we rise by lifting others, right?
And
We
there's
rise by
plenty of
lifting others.
work to do in the community. So we rise by lifting
We
others.
rise by
I'm looking
lifting others.
for that quote, the quote that you can't remember because it
Hey, I'm gonna find
sounds.
it because I think I even gave my daughter a T-shirt with that quote, so she's probably laughing like, "Mama, you don't even know." A brain fog right now, but it's a good
It's
one.
okay.
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it
And
in
you
the
need to share it. You need
yeah,
to
I'll
share
share
it
it. It's a
because
really good
it
one.
really is about community.
It is. It's
Ubuntu,
always about community.
remembering the ancestors, remembering where we've come from and what we've
Absolutely.
done. And, you know, we have so many people here that watch. And so they're either Christian or Muslim that I know. But, you know, the people in the middle, I was like, there's truth in everything.
Yes.
And so I'm not eradicating what you grew up with, but at the end of the day, there is some truth that we're missing because we're stuck in one religion or another. So when you mention the ancestors and libation, some people are going to reject that, but it's all truth.
Yeah.
It's all necessary.
It's yes, right.
Until you get the whole picture. And I don't think we'll ever have the whole picture, but know that the walk is the same.
Amen. Absolutely.
The walk,
Absolutely. The walk is the same. I agree with you.
And so when I think about the ancestors, and I told you about my quest for that legacy piece, building your own legend and making sure that the legacy carries on. That's for the entire diaspora. That's for families, and it's for community. We didn't get where we were, where we are now, or where we've come from alone. It's always been Ubuntu.
So I think there's one, I am my ancestors' greatest dream. That's one of them. I still think it's another one, but as you're talking about this, now some of those quotes are starting to work through me, right? I am my ancestors' greatest dream, right? Yeah. But also seeing that, you know, we're connected to everything, right? That we're connected to, we're part of a global community, that we're connected to all people of all faiths, right? And so I think that empowers us to know, one, that we're not alone, right? Because loneliness is even worse than depression. There's some research that says that, right? And that, you know, we have other people that can lift us up. We don't do this thing by ourselves. We don't do this thing called life by ourselves. We come into this world as part of a community, and that's the family. And then we have our, you know, expanded family or extended family and so on and so forth. So we want to recognize the strength that we get from others, and community actually is good for our well-being, right? It's really good for our well-being.
And I'm noticing that just in this pandemic. So the people that I walk with, they're a part of my pandemic pod.
Oh,
but
nice.
It's folks that I get to see every day, and they have decided to wear a mask and social distance and know where they've been. Right. And so that helps us to be in community and communion and communication with one another, and not just online. So those kind of things are necessary, like you said. Loneliness, absolutely, and being alone. I had no idea what you said, that it was worse than depression. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to start comparing, but it's pretty bad, right? Like there's some research that's talking more about loneliness and the impact it has on folks, right? So we don't want to downplay that we are social beings. Our brain is a social organ, and we are meant to be in community. You know, this idea that connection really is the cure. We need to be connected, like true connection with people that are compassionate, that show empathy, that we're not simply a means to an end, but an end within ourselves. Like those things really give us a little bit more pep in our step. Really important.
So you just opened up a can of worms. So how do people do that now?
Be in community?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I think
let's say you live alone and you're at home. How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think it's finding ways creatively to reach out to people like we're doing now with Zoom, right? There are more Zoom meetings than ever. People are doing like Zoom brunches and things of that nature. I think it's something like you said, like if you find a community in your neighborhood where people want to mask up and go for a walk and support each other that way. I know the National Association of Mental Illness, NAMI, has a lot of support groups that are free that some people could benefit from if they're just feeling lonely and depressed and they don't have anyone to talk to. The National Association of Mental Illness, NAMI, is a really, really good resource because not everyone may be able to identify their community, right? And so we need to know who our tribe is. And sometimes we got to do a little research on that. Religious communities can be very medicinal, very, very healing for folks, so finding, what those communities are. And if you don't know, I would encourage folks to reach out to NAMI, at least if they're feeling a sense of loneliness and despair, to find support groups, because I believe NAMI's doing virtual support groups now. So NAMI's a good resource as well. Yeah,
okay.
You gotta be
And
creative.
That's NAAME, correct?
It's NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness. NAMI.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if I think of anything else, I'll definitely put it in the chat box later on.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Dream Aloud with Kendra. If you like the show, leave a review and tell a friend. I also invite you to join our Dream Aloud Facebook group, where we encourage and challenge our members to step outside of their comfort zone and live limitless lives. I guarantee you will experience true fulfillment when you live, work, and play your way.